Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa ashabihi wa man tabi'ahum bi ihsan ila yawmiddin. Amma ba'd. So we continue with the sixth class and Dars al-Sadis in the studies of the great treatise Akhlaq Hamalat al-Qur'an, the manners, the etiquettes of the carriers of the Qur'an, the manners and the etiquettes of the carriers or the bearers of the Qur'an, authored by the great Imam, what's his name? Muhammad ibn al-Husayn al-Ajurri al-Baghdadi rahimahullah ta'ala. His kunya Abu Bakr. Then the author is named Abu Bakr Muhammad ibn al-Husayn al-Ajurri rahimahullah ta'ala. He died in the year 360 rahmatullahi alayhi. Now, we see in the introduction of the author, he has mentioned that the Quran is a benefit and a cure. And he has mentioned the way to benefit from it and the means to take and the steps to take. And then his closing, the introduction, mentioned the narration that we were discussing yesterday evening. He mentioned the narration with his chain to Mujahid. في قوله تعالى يتلونه حق تلاوته. The statement of Mujahid ibn Jabr rahimahullah, and the statement of Allah Azza wa Jal, and the explanation of the statement of Allah Azza wa Jal, they recited the true recitation. He said it means يَعْمَلُونَ بِهِ حَقَّ عَمَلِهِ, applying it, the true application. The author, he's closing the chapter like this, and his introduction to clarify, to benefit from the Quran is the one who applies the Quran. And the true recitation of the Qur'an, just to establish the issue in the very beginning, that because when one thinks the carriers of the Qur'an, then maybe an individual may misunderstand or have a shubha or a doubt and think that simply memorizing the Qur'an and reciting it will make him from the carriers of the Qur'an, or make him from those who are considered from the people of the Qur'an. And this is not the case. And the one who is truly reciting the Qur'an and the true recitation of the Qur'an, al-tilawa al-haqiqiyya, hiya al-ittiba'. The true recitation of the Qur'an is to follow it. And this is what he's establishing here. Rahimahullah ta'ala. And we have seen that this is not only is the understanding of Mujahid, who is from the Tabi'een, likewise from the Sahaba, Ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu anhu, and Ibn Abbas radiyallahu anhuma. They have the same understanding. That the understanding of this word, of this verse of Allah Azza wa Jalla, يَتُلُونَهُ حَقَّ تِلَاوَتِهِ, they recited its true recitation, meaning يَعْمَلُونَ بِهِ حَقَّ عَمَلِهِ أو يَتَّبِعُونَهُ حَقَّ اتِّبَاعِهِ, that they apply it in its true application and that they follow it in its true following. And following the commandments that are therein, following the halal and the haram that are there, that are found inside, in its application by complying to the commandments and staying away from the prohibitions. In this manner, Ibn Qayyim rahimahullah ta'ala, he has mentioned about this verse, يَتْلُونَهُ حَقَّ تِلَاوَتِهِ, clarifying the meaning of this verb and its true understanding, and the understanding of this verse, the correct understanding. It's from we know that the word is tala yatlu, utlu tilawatan. Tala means that he recited, but also means that he followed. And this is a very important point. So he says, Ibn Qayyim rahimahullah ta'ala, he has a brief chapter in a book that he has, Miftah Dar al-Sa'ada, a book all about the meaning of the statement, La ilaha illallah, and its benefit and its virtue. He mentioned here, with regards to this verse, he said, وَهَذِهِ الْمُتَابَعَةِ هي التلاوة التي أثنى الله على أهلها في قوله إن الذين يتلون كتاب الله، وفي قوله الذين آتيناهم الكتاب يتلونه حق تلاوته، والمعنى يتبعون كتاب الله حق اتباعه. وقال تعالى أتل ما أوحي إليك من الكتاب وأقم الصلاة. وقال إنما أمرت أن أعبد رب هذه البلدة الذي حرمها وله كل شيء وأمرت أن أكون من المسلمين وأن أتلو القرآن. وَنَتْلُو الْقُرْآنِ وَنَتْلُوَ الْقُرْآنِ. He says here, Rahimahullah, Ibn Qayyim, he died in the year 751, from the great scholars of hadith and the ulama of the sunnah, and from the greatest of the students of Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah, rahmatullahi alayhima. He says that this following, al-mutaba'ah, the following, in reality it is istilawa. It's this recitation, which Allah has praised it and He has praised the people. And His statement, the meaning of which is, and those who recite the book of Allah. إِنَّ الَّذِينَ يَتْلُونَ كِتَابَ اللَّهِ. Those who recite, using the verb tala again here, yatluna, which generally means to recite, and he will be in this translation here, but the true understanding is to recite it and follow it, and to follow it. This is what he will establish. And in the statement of Allah, those who we have given the book, they recited its true recitation. He said, and the meaning of this is that they follow the book of Allah, the true following, the correct following. They follow it rightfully. He said, and likewise in the statement of Allah, and recite that which is revealed to you from the book, and establish salat. Again, the verb tala comes, utlu. Ma uhiya ilayka. And then he says again in the statement of Allah Azza wa Jal, the meaning of which is, and I have only been commanded to worship the Lord of this land. And this is what Allah commanded the Prophet ﷺ to say. Verily, I have only been commanded to worship the Lord of this city, the one who has prohibited or made it sacred, and for him belongs everything. And I have been commanded to be from the Muslims, and that I should recite the Qur'an. وَأَنْ أَتْلُوَ الْقُرْآنِ. He is saying here now, mentioning these are verses where this verb tala has come in different forms. Tala yatlu utlu tilawatan. It's come in different forms in its conjugation. He's saying about this verb, he says, فَحَقِيقَةُ تِلَاوَةِ في هذه المواضع هي تلاوة المطلقة التامة. He said the reality of the meaning of this word tilawa, recitation, in all of these places in the Qur'an, it is the absolute and complete recitation. The absolute and complete recitation. He says, وَحَقِيقَةُ اللَّفْظِ. And the reality of this term, the meaning of this term, تَلَا يَتْلُ يُتْلُ تِلَاوَةً إِنَّمَا هُوَ الْإِتِّبَاعِ. The reality of this verb, or this word tilawa, or tala, this verb tala, or this word tilawa, the reality, he says, إِنَّمَا هِيَ الْإِتِّبَاعِ. To follow. يُقَالُ أُتْلُ أَثْرَ فُلَانٍ. It says أُتْلُ أَثْرَ فُلَانٍ. Follow the footsteps of so-and-so. And he says also in the Arabic language, you say تَلَوْتُ أَثَرَهُ وَقَفَوْتُهُ وَقَصَصْتُهُ بِمَعنَى تَبِعْتُهُ خَلْفَهُ. He says here that this verb, he's explaining the meaning in the Arabic language, so that we can understand. He's using this verb tala to mean to follow so-and-so's footsteps, and he follow behind him and follow his footsteps exactly, meaning to follow him, establishing the meaning of this verb that could be translated to mean recite, but its original meaning is to follow. He wants to give the great point, that the true recitation, the one who is truly carrying the book of Allah Azza wa Jalla and reciting it properly, is not simply reciting it on his lips, not simply reciting with precise tajweed, not simply reciting its letters and memorizing its letters precisely, but rather following it in action and creed and belief, and conduct and manners, likewise, and application. This is what he wants to establish. He says, وَمِنْهُ, and from this meaning, and this verb to recite also means to follow. He says, وَمِنْهُ قَوْلُهُ تَعَالَى وَالشَّمْسِ وَضُحَاهَا وَالْقَمَرِ إِذَا تَلَاهَا. He said, by the sun and its morning light, and by the moon as it follows it, establishing the proof that the verb tala means to follow. He says, أَيْ تَبِئَهَا فِي الطُّلُوعِ بَعْدَ غَيْبَتِهَا. Meaning it follows, the moon follows. Whenever the sun goes down, the moon follows behind it and rises. Like this. And whenever the sun goes down, it comes up, the moon follows behind it and goes down. Like this, it follows behind the moon. Whenever the sun comes, the moon goes. Whenever the sun goes, the moon comes. In this manner. Naam, وَالْقَمَرِ إِذَا تَلَاهَا. So the meaning of tala here is to follow, definitely. So he says, وَيُقَالُ جَاءَ الْقَوْمُ يَتْلُو بَعْضُهُمْ بَعْضًا أي يَتَّبِعُهُم بَعْضُهُم بَعْضًا. نعم يَتَّبِعُ بَعْضُهُم بَعْضًا. He says the people when they come, they follow one another like this. You use the same verb, tala. يتلو أتلو تلاوة يتلو القوم يتلو القوم بعضهم بعضا. Now, like this. أو جاء القوم يتلو بعضهم بعضا. He says, ويسمى تالي الكلام, the one who recites the Quran. تالي الكلام, الكلام, speech, the one who is reciting speech. ويسمى تالي القرآن تاليا لأنه يتبع بعض الحروف بعضا لا يخرجها جملة واحدة بل يتبع بعضها بعضا مرتبة كلما انقضى حرف أو كلمة أتبعه بحرف آخر أو كلمة أخرى. He said again, likewise, the relationship between the meaning of recitation and to follow is even found in the same word, tilawa, which would mean to recite, but the origin, it means to follow. He said this is because the one who is reciting some words or reciting speech, he is called like this, a reciter, taliyan, because he is following the letters up one after another. He doesn't bring them all out at one time. Whether he's reciting fluently and it's flowing, following word. One letter comes, the next letter comes, and another word comes, the next word comes, like this. And it's fluent, and it's a recitation, the meaning that word of follow is coming. The letters and the words are following one after another. They don't come all out at once. So this is the relationship between the meaning recitation and tilawa bimana al-qira'a wa tilawa bimana al-ittiba'. Like this, because the letters are flowing, following one another. He says, now here, and to clarify, وَهَذِهِ التِّلَاوَةُ وَسِيلَةٌ وَطَرِيقٌ. And this recitation of the words, the letters and the words, like this is a means and a way. Means and a way. وَالْمَقْصُودُ التِّلَاوَةُ الْحَقِيقِيَّةُ. And what is intended by this is the true recitation. وَهِيَ تِلَاوَةُ الْمَعْنَى وَاتِّبَاعُهُ. And the true recitation is to recite the meaning, any meaning to follow it. To recite the meaning and to follow it. So to recite the words of the Qur'an in the proper manner as it was revealed, with a beautiful voice and according to the rules of tajweed. This is required, and this is a great act and a great deed, but it's not the goal. Rather, this is a means to achieve the goal, and the goal is to understand it and for it to enter the heart and then to apply it. And at this time, he would really be considered a reciter of the Qur'an. At this time, he would really be considered a reciter of the Qur'an. He says, so the true recitation of the Qur'an, وَهِيَ تِلَاوَةُ الْمَعْنَى وَاتِّبَاعُهُ تَصْدِيقًا بِخَبَرِهِ وَاتِّمَارًا بِأَمْرِهِ وَانْتِهَاءً عَنْ نَهْيِهِ وَاتِّمَامًا بِهِ حَيْثُ مَا قَادَكَ إِنْ قَدْتَ مَعَهُ. He says, rahimahullah ta'ala, that the true recitation, the intent, the reciting of the words is the means and the way to reach the goal. And the goal and the main intent is to recite the true meaning. And that's to follow the meaning and to follow it in application by believing in what it has informed. And by complying to its commandments. And by staying away from its prohibitions. And by following it precisely. Meaning wherever it leads you, you comply and you follow behind it like this. In this manner. Wherever the Qur'an leads, you just follow in compliance. Al-inqiyad. حَيْثُ مَا قَادَكَ إِنْ قَدْتَ مَعَهُ. Wherever it goes, the Qur'an says, do this. وَأَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةِ. You follow. It says, وَلَا تَتَنَاجَوْا. And إِذَا تَنَاجَيْتُمْ فَلَا تَتَنَاجَوْا بِالْإِثْمِ وَالْعُدْوَانِ وَمَعْصِيَةِ الرُّسُولِ. And if you have private counsel, don't have private counsel in sin and transgression and disobedience to the messenger. Like this, so that at this time you stop. It's a prohibition. You with the Quran, it gives you permission to go, you go. And wherever it gives you a prohibition to stop, you stop. Wherever it directs you, like this. This is the meaning of the true recitation. This is the true recitation of the Quran. At-tilawa al-haqiqiyya. And he says, and this is the maqsood. This is the intent. He says, فَالتِّلَاوَةُ الْقُرْآنِ تَتَنَاوَلُ تِلَاوَةَ لَفْظِهِ وَمَعْنَاهُ. He said, so reciting the Qur'an, this includes the reciting of its letters and the reciting of its meanings. And the recitation of its letters and following its meanings. Now he says, وَالتِّلَاوَةُ الْمَعْنَى أَشْرَفُ مِنْ مُجَرَّدِ تِلَاوَةِ اللَّفْظِ. And to follow the meaning is more noble and virtuous than reciting the terms, the words. Is more virtuous. Because this is the intent. This is the goal. And to simply recite the Qur'an in a beautiful voice this is the means and not the goal. This is the means to achieve the goal. So the goal, this is what is the purpose. To recite it, to follow its meanings. And this is the one that is most virtuous, he says. He says, وَأَهْلُهَا هُمْ أَهْلُ الْقُرْآنِ الَّذِينَ لَهُمُ الثَّنَاءُ فِي الدُّنْيَا وَالْآخِرَةِ فَإِنَّهُمْ أَهْلُ مُتَابَعَةٍ وَتِلَاوَةٍ حَقًّا. He said, in the people of the Qur'an, they are the people of the Qur'an. And they are the ones, the people of this recitation and following the meaning. They're the true people of the Qur'an, and they are the ones who have the praise in this life and in the hereafter, and they are the people of following and reciting the true recitation. And this is the case. This is the case. So the understanding of this verse, الَّذِينَ آتَيْنَاهُمُ الْكِتَابَ يَتْلُونَهُ حَقَّ تِلَاوَتِهِ أُولَٰئِكَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِهِ. Those whom we have given the book, they recited the true recitation, these are the ones who truly believe in it. And he meaning the ones who follow it, the true following, and the ones who apply it, the true application. So reciting the Qur'an, it doesn't simply mean only reciting the words. Rather, this is a portion of it, and this is a means to achieve the goal. And the goal is to comply to the commandments that are found therein, and to stay away from the prohibitions, and to apply it in one's life. And to apply it in one's life. As for the one who doesn't apply it, or he is in opposition to it, then this Qur'an will not benefit him. Rather, it will be a proof against him. And it will be a means for his belittlement in this life, and a punishment in the hereafter. For with regards to the Shaykh Uthaymeen, he mentioned about this. He said, وَمَنْ خَالَفَ الْقُرْآنِ فِي شَيْءٍ كَانَ ذَلِكَ دَلِيلًا عَلَى نَقْصِ إِيمَانِهِ. Remember, in our previous class, Shaykh Uthaymeen, he mentioned that from the signs of Iman is that there's action. And he used this verse as a proof for that. And الَّذِينَ آتَيْنَاهُمُ الْكِتَابِ يَتْلُونَهُ حَقَّ تِلَاوَتِهِ أُولَٰئِكَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِهِ. And the ones who truly have Iman in the book, they're the ones who follow it the proper following. The ones who apply it properly. So that means that Iman has a sign. And the sign of the strength of a person's Iman is that his actions are good. That his actions are good. If the Iman is strong in the heart, it's like a good tree that has good fruits. Its foundations are firm and the branches are high, giving its fruits at all time. This is the case of the one who has strong Iman. He says, but on the other hand, as for the one who opposed or contradicted something from the Qur'an, then this is an evidence. He said, كَانَ ذَلِكَ دَلِيلًا عَلَى نَقْصِ إِيمَانِهِ مَنْ خَالَفَ الْقُرْآنِ فِي شَيْءٍ كَانَ ذَلِكَ دَلِيلًا عَلى نَقْصِ إِيمَانِهِ لِقَوْلِهِ تَعَالَى يَتْلُونَهُ حَقَّ تِلَاوَتِهِ أُولَٰئِكَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِهِ فَمَعْنَى ذَلِكَ إِذَا لَمْ يَتْلُوهُ حَقَّ تِلَاوَتِهِ فَإِنَّهُمْ لَمْ يُؤْمِنُوا بِهِ بَلْ نقص من إيمانهم بقدر ما نقص من تلاوتهم له. Allahu Akbar. He mentioned, rahimahullah ta'ala, that the one who is in opposition or contradicts or is opposing the Qur'an, meaning not following it in anything, then this is the evidence of deficiency in his Iman. Because Allah says, those who recite the book, the true recitation, they are the ones who truly believe in it. And He said the meaning of this is that if they did not recite it, the true recitation, then they don't truly believe in it. Meaning if they don't follow with the true following, they don't apply it in the true application, then they don't truly believe in it. He said, what does that mean? Not meaning that it takes them out of Islam, of course. He says here to clarify. He said, بَلْ نَقَصَ مِنْ إِيمَانِهِمْ بِقَدْرِ مَا نَقَصَ مِنْ تِلَاوَتِهِمْ لَهُ. But rather their Iman will be deficient, will have a deficiency according to their deficiency in following the recitation. That their Iman will be deficient according to the deficiency of their following of the recitation. I mean the following, meaning the following of the meanings of the Qur'an. So whenever a person is disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and disobeying what He has commanded in the Qur'an by not performing it, and disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by committing what He has prohibited. In this manner, this is indication, and this is only protruding or proceeding from weakness in Iman. A weakness in Iman. And this is the case. So it's very important to follow the Qur'an. And this is the intent behind this. And the one who, this is his ending the introduction like this. So that now this is an asl from the very beginning of the book, all the way into the end. That the one who is truly a person of the Qur'an, the one who is truly carrying the Qur'an, the one who is truly a reciter of the Qur'an, he is the one who is following it. He is the one who is applying it. And this one, he has the high status and he has the high rank in this life. And this is an indication likewise in this verse. Shaykh Uthaymeen, he brought a very beautiful benefit. And he said that this verse, it also indicates على علو مرتبة من يتلون الكتاب حق تلاوته للإشارة إليهم بلفظ البعيد أولئك يؤمنون به أولئك يؤمنون به. And أولئك اسم إشارة للبعيد. But here it doesn't mean للبعيد, it means للعظمة. Just like sometimes we have ism ishara for something near, you point this. Something further away, that, like this. But for example, Allah says, ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابَ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ. ذَلِكَ لَا تُفِيدُ هُنَا الْبُعْد, but تُفِيدُ الْعَظَمَ. ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابَ الْعَظِيمِ, this amazing, this great book. So here it's not speaking, indicating something that's far away, rather it's indicating something that is great. Like that, Allah Azza wa Jalla mentions here, أُولَٰئِكَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِهِ. And to magnify these people and to raise their rank and to praise them and to indicate that they have a lofty status. And الَّذِينَ آتَيْنَاهُمُ الْكِتَابَ يَتْلُونَهُ حَقَّ تِلَاوَتِهِ أُولَٰئِكَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِهِ. These are the ones who truly believe in it. These are the ones who truly believe in it, indicating that they have a high status with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this life and in the hereafter. أُولَٰئِكَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِهِ. So the true recitation, barakallahu fikum, is the recitation that is included in the application. So the author, now he mentioned another narration with his chain to Ata. He mentioned Ata ibn Abi Rabah, rahimahullah ta'ala. He died in the year 114. قال إنما القرآن عبر. He says here that verily the Quran are admonitions and lessons. عبر, جمع عبرة. Al-ibra is a lesson or an admonition. When somebody sees something, they take heed from this. An ibra, something that one will hear or see, and he will take heed from that and learn a lesson from this. He said, this is the reality of the Qur'an. This is the reality of the Qur'an. Then the author, he closes his introduction and he says, Rahimahullah, قال Muhammad ibn al-Husayn. It mentions here waqila, but what is correct, waqabala. And there's a misprint in the text. If you have the same text that we're reading with, it says waqila, and this is a mistake. It should say waqabala. وقبل أن أذكر أخلاق أهل القرآن وقبل أن أذكر أخلاق أهل القرآن وما ينبغي لهم أن يتأدبوا به أذكر فضل حملة القرآن ليرغبوا في تلاوته والعمل به والتواضع لمن تعلموا منه أو علموه. He says, the author, he mentioned Rahimahullah Muhammad ibn al-Husayn al-Ajurri Rahimahullah ta'ala before I mentioned the manners of the people of the Qur'an. He says, before I mention the manners of the people of the Qur'an and that which is becoming and befitting for them to discipline themselves with, I will mention the virtue of the carriers of the Qur'an, so that they can desire and hope for it, so they can have a desire and be encouraged to recite it and to apply it and to have humbleness and to be humble before the one that they learn it from or that they teach. An indication that he says here, this is a great benefit, and he will mention the virtue of the manners of the Qur'an. And before mentioning the manners of the people of the Qur'an, he will mention the virtue of the carriers of the Qur'an. That way, whenever a person hears the virtue of these people, then they will desire to be like them. And they will strive to follow their way. And they will strive to take on the etiquettes that they have because of the great virtue that they have. And this is from the ways the ulama they use in ta'lif, sometimes, or in authoring works before. They will mention, for example, ahkam and rulings. Sometimes they will begin the chapter mentioning the virtue of the particular ruling or of the particular action. And this way, the individual, if he knows the virtue of something, he will bear the burden in order to achieve it. And it will be easy for him to be patient upon that way. But as for if an individual he didn't realize the virtue of the Qur'an or the people of the Qur'an, then it would not be very easy for him to be patient day in and day out, reciting it over and over, sitting and memorizing the likes like this. But if a person, he learns the virtue and he's aware of the virtue, then this will help him to be easy and to be steadfast and to be persistent and consistent in striving to obtain that rank and status. So he mentioned this. And he says here, so that they can desire and be encouraged to recite it and to follow it, and so that they can be encouraged to be humble in front of the one that they learned the Qur'an from, and also in front of the one that they teach. So then that's the indication that the student, he has to be humble before the teacher, and he shows respect before the teacher. And the one who is teaching, he has a right over the student. But on the other hand, likewise, he mentioned too, and likewise, وَأَوْ عَلَّمُوهُ, and likewise the student has a right over the teacher, and a virtue for the teacher. So they're sharing together in this virtue of education and learning. The teacher has rights over the student, and the student has rights over the teacher, like this, and they both have to be humble with regards to each other, sincere, and striving upon this way in the best manner. He's going to indicate some of these manners that he's making ishara here, and he will mention details, inshallah, in the work to come. The author, he mentions now, Bab Fadlu Hamalat al-Qur'an. The chapter, Babun Fadlu Hamalat al-Qur'an. The chapter, the virtue of the carriers of the Qur'an. The virtue of the carriers of the Qur'an. The bearers of the Qur'an. Hamalat al-Qur'an. It's from the verb hamala yahmilu. Ihmil hamlan. Hamala, to carry something, but also to bear something. And to bear something. Tahammul is to bear a burden, and to hold it, and to carry the weight of something. So it's from this verb. And the person that the singular is called hamil, and the plural, hamalatun. Like hafid wa hafadha, wa katib wa kataba, wa talib wa talaba. Like this, but he's mentioning this here, the carriers of the Qur'an. And the intent is not simply to memorize the Qur'an, as we have seen, he's established this before, but rather it is to establish the Qur'an by following its commandments. By following its commandments. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He has given previous revelation to previous nations. They carried the revelation of Allah Azza wa Jal. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentioned about the Jews, and He mentioned their example whenever they were given the book, and they bore the book, the Torah, and they carried the book, and they memorized the book, and they learned the book, but they didn't follow its obligations. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned them in His book, and He mentioned them in a dispraising way. He mentioned subhanahu wa ta'ala, مَثَلُ الَّذِينَ حُمِّلُوا التَّوْرَاةِ ثُمَّ لَمْ يَحْمِلُوهَا كَمَثَلِ الْحِمَارِ يَحْمِلُ أَسْفَارًا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentioned about the previous nations who received the revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they received the revelation and the recitation, but they didn't apply it in the proper application. They didn't follow it in the proper following. What did Allah say about them? Verily, those who were given the obligation of the Torah, but they did not stand firm with that obligation by following it and applying it, their example is the example of a donkey that is carrying books on its back. This is the example of the one who came before us, who received the revelation from Allah Azza wa Jal, and they received the obligation, the command, and the laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His legislation, and the sharia of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Torah, that their example is what? The example of a donkey carrying books on his back. We know that if there is a donkey, akramakum Allah, and he's carrying books on his back, he benefits nothing from that. He can't read them, he can't understand them, he can't benefit from them, he can't benefit others by way of them. He's carrying something on his back, he has no clue about what he's carrying. This is the example of the one who has the revelation, and he has the haqq, and he has the truth, but he does not apply it. He does not work by way of it. It's like a donkey. Now I'm carrying books on his back. So this is the example of the one who has the hamal, yani yahmil wa lam ya'mal. Yahmil wahy Allah Azza wa Jal wa lam ya'mal bihi. He's carrying the book, and he's carrying it, meaning yahfaduhu wa yatluhu. He's carrying it, he memorized it, he recited, but he didn't follow it, the proper following. Then his example is the example of a donkey. Na'udhu billah, with books on his back. With books on his back. So again, the indication, the one who is truly from the people of the Qur'an is the one who follows it. And even it was said to one of the prophets, a great prophet, the first messenger, Nuh alayhi salam, whenever he mentioned to Allah Azza wa Jal, and he called on Allah Azza wa Jal about his family, whenever his son was almost overcome by the flood, and Nuh, he called and he said, قال يا نوح Nuh called out, my son, he's from my family. He's from my family. What did Allah respond to him with? He said, قال يا نوح إنه ليس من أهلك إنه عمل غير صالح. He said, oh Nuh, he's not from your family. ليس من أهلك. He's not from your people. Because why? Because his deeds are not righteous deeds. So he is from his family, from his lineage and from his blood, but he was not considered from him and his people because he did not act and apply the information in the proper manner, the revelation in the proper manner. So then again, all of this is indication that whenever he's mentioning here, فَضْلُ حَمَلَةِ الْقُرْآنِ, and the virtue of the carriers of the Qur'an, the ones who apply it. Because the one who carries it, then he doesn't apply it, then he has the worst example. He has the worst example. And even somebody's relationship or his lineage cannot benefit him, even in this case. And he is the son of a prophet, the son of the first messenger, Nuh alayhi salam. But this relationship here did not benefit him whenever his deeds were not righteous. Whenever his deeds were not righteous. So the one who is truly from the people of the Qur'an, he's the one who follows it and applies it. He is the one who follows it and applies it. The author, rahimahullah ta'ala, Al-Imam Al-Ajurri, rahimahullah ta'ala, he mentioned a narration with his chain to Anas ibn Malik, radiyallahu anhu. He said, قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم لله من الناس أهلون قيل من هم يا رسول الله قال أهل القرآن هم أهل الله وخاصته. He mentioned another narration again with his chain to Anas ibn Malik. The two narrations, different chains from the author, but they all end to Anas ibn Malik. He said again, قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إن لله أهلين قيل من هم يا رسول الله قال أهل القرآن هم أهل الله وخاصته. The meaning of this narration, my noble brothers, that is narrated by Anas ibn Malik, is an authentic narration, radiyallahu anhu, that the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he said, verily, Allah has people, and from amongst the people, He has special people. There are special people. Now, from amongst mankind, Allah, He has people. They are His special ones. They said, who are they, O Messenger of Allah? And the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he said, Hum ahlul Qur'an, yani the people of the Qur'an. And they are the people of Allah and His special ones. The people of Allah and His special ones. Now we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us from the people of the Qur'an, to make us from the people of Allah. And Ahlullahi wa khasatu, and Allah, He's the creator and He's the Lord and the Rabb of all mankind, but from His mankind He has people that are specific and special. Awliya. They're His awliya. The awliya of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, la khawfun alayhim wa lahum yahzanun. They have no fear on them and they have no grief. They have no fear on Him, they have no grief. These are the true believers, the ones who have the high ranks and the high status. The awliya of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, His allies, and the ones whom He loves, tabaraka wa ta'ala. And the ones whom He aids with His special aid. And the one who He's with them in the manner He's with them in His aid and with His support and with His guidance and with His protection at all times. The awliya of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, these are ahlullahi wa ahlul Qur'an wa khasatuhu subhanahu wa ta'ala. Shaykh Abdul Muhsin Al-Badr, hafidhullah ta'ala, he has a great commentary on this particular narration in the Muqaddimah of Ibn Majah. He said, hafidhullah ta'ala, Shaykhuna Shaykh Abdul Muhsin, may Allah preserve him upon khair and give him a long life upon obedience and ta'ah. He said here, rahimahullah ta'ala, he said, وَالْمَقْصُودُ مِنْ ذَلِكِ, and that Allah, the people of Allah are special people, the people of the Qur'an. He says, وَالْمَقْصُودُ مِنْ ذَلِكِ, and what is intended by this, أَنَّ أَهْلَ الْقُرْآنِ مِنْ أَوْلِيَاءِ اللَّهِ عَزَّ وَجَلَّ, that the people of the Qur'an, they are the allies and the beloved ones of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, His awliya. إِذَا كَانُوا عَرَفُوا الْقُرْآنَ وَعَمِلُوا بِمَا فِيهِ وَعَلَّمُوهُ فَإِنَّهُمْ يَكُونُونَ مِنْ أَوْلِيَاءِ اللَّهِ. He mentioned here three things. He said, these are the awliya of Allah, these are the people of the Qur'an, these are the special people of Allah Azza wa Jal. They are, if they know the Qur'an and they apply what is therein and they teach it, he said, then verily they will be from the awliya of Allah. the high status and the high ranks, the best of the believers. They're the ones who know the Qur'an. And they are the ones who apply it, thus completing themselves. And being the best of an individual in this life. To be a slave of Allah Azza wa Jalla, sincerely. Worshipping Allah upon knowledge of the Qur'an and the Sunnah and application, and then helping others to achieve that completeness. This is the best of the people. This is the best of the people. He said if they did this, then they would truly be from the awliya of Allah Azza wa Jalla. وَخَاصَةِ اللَّهِ Azza wa Jalla الَّذِينَ هُمْ أَخَصُّ النَّاسِ بِهِ. These are the most specific of the people of Allah. And all of the believers, alhamdulillah, Allah loves them all, but the most specific of them, they're the ones who know Him. And they're the ones who worship Him and follow His commandments and teach and aid the others in doing that likewise. And this is the mission, and this is the way of the prophets and the messengers. He says, why? لِأَنَّهُمْ الْمُشْتَغِلُونَ الْمُعْتَنُونَ بِكَلَامِهِ. Because these are the ones who are busy and concerned with His speech. The ones who are applying it and learning it and teaching it. They're the ones who are busy and concerned with His speech. تَعَلُّمًا وَعَمَلًا وَتَعْلِيمًا. By learning and applying and by teaching and educating. He says, فَهَذَا يَدُلُّ عَلَى فَضْلِ أَهْلِ الْقُرْآنِ وَلَكِنْ هَذَا إِذَا كَانُوا جَمَعُوا بَيْنَ الْعِلْمِ وَالْعَمَلِ وَالْإِسْتِقَامَةِ عَلَى أَمْرِ اللَّهِ عَزَّ وَجَلَّ. He said this indicates the virtue of the people of the Qur'an. But this is only the case if they gather between knowledge and application and steadfastness upon the command of Allah. وَإِلَّا فَإِنَّ الْإِنسَانِ إِذَا كَانَ عَارِفًا بِالْقُرْآنِ وَعَالِمًا بِهِ وَلَمْ يَعْمَلْ فَإِنَّ هَذَا كَمَا مَرَّ تعلمه يكون وبالا عليه لأنه عرف الحق ولم يعمل به. Now, he says, as for the individual, that if he knows the Qur'an and he has knowledge of it, but he does not apply it, he said, then just as has proceeded, then his education or his learning will be a destruction for him. And it will be a foul and evil outcome for him. He says, because he knew the truth and he did not apply it. He said, وَقَدْ جَاءَ فِي الْحَدِيثِ. It has come in the narration, مِنَ الَّذِينَ تُسَعَرُ بِهِمْ النَّارَ الْعَالِمُ الَّذِي لَمْ يَعْمَلْ بِعِلْمِهِ. It's been mentioned that from the people, the fire will be ignited with. From the first of those who the fire will be ignited with, a scholar or a person of knowledge, a person who knows, but he did not apply his knowledge. Now this is he's indicating to, I think, the narration. He said, وَقَدْ قَالَ صَلَى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمْ فِي الْحَدِيثِ الصَّحِيحِ وَالْقُرْآنُ حُجَّةٌ لَكَ أَوْ عَلَيْكَ. And likewise, the Prophet ﷺ, he has mentioned in an authentic narration, the Qur'an is a proof for you or against you. فَهُوَ حُجَّةٌ لَكَ إِذَا قُمْتَ بِمَا يَجِبُ عَلَيْكَ نَحْوَهُ وَحُجَّةٌ عَلَيْكَ إِذَا كُنْتَ بِخِلَافِ ذَلِكَ. So the Qur'an is a proof for you, he says, Shaykh Abdul Muhsin Al-Badr, Hafidhahullah Ta'ala. He said the Qur'an is a proof for you if you establish what is obligatory with regards to you. And if you apply what is therein. And it is a proof against you if you are contrary to that. And he summarized in the end, the Shaykh, he mentioned, إِذَنْ أَهْلُ الْقُرْآنِ الَّذِينَ هُمْ أَهْلُ اللَّهِ وَخَاصَّتُهُ هم الذين يقومون بما هو مطلوب في حق القرآن تعلما وعملا وتعليما واستقامة على أمر الله عز وجل وعلى ما جاء في كتابه وفي سنة رسوله صلوات الله وسلامه وبركاته عليه. He mentioned here that to summarize the people of the Quran, and he summarized the meaning of this hadith. Verily Allah, He has from amongst mankind people, individuals, they are His closest, they're His most specific ones, meaning that they are His awliya. And they are the people of the Qur'an and the specific and special ones with regards to Allah Azza wa Jal. He said these people of the Qur'an, they are the people of Allah, and the ones who are His special ones, they are the ones who establish that which is required from them with regards to the right of the Qur'an, meaning by way of learning and applying and teaching and being steadfast upon that, and being steadfast upon what has come in the book of Allah and in the sunnah of the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Sallallahu alayhi wasallam. So this is the case. The one who is following the Qur'an, the one who is applying the Qur'an, the one who is striving to be obedient to Allah Azza wa Jalla, then he is a wali. And he is from the people of the Qur'an. And he has the protection and the allegiance and the aid from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is definitely under the chapter heading Fadlu, حملة القرآن, a great virtue that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from all of mankind. There are those who are specific and special that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has selected to make from the people, from His people and from the people of His book. And they are the people who have knowledge of His book and they apply it and they aid to help the other people gain that knowledge and to apply it. These are the things right here. وَالْعَصْرِ إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ. Now this is the indication here. This is the people of the Qur'an. This is the people of the Qur'an. The people of application. The people of istiqamah. The people of steadfastness. The people, lots of talking, lots of action. Lots of talking, lots of action. Now, they apply what they know. They apply what they know. The one who knows a little bit, but he applies that, he's better than the one who has lots of knowledge, but he doesn't apply it. Rather, that one who has lots of knowledge, but he doesn't apply it, he's just putting more books on his back. And not bringing any benefit, rather bringing harm. So again, the issue is about the application. The author, he mentioned another narration, this time with his chain, to Abdullah ibn Amr radiyallahu anhu. Abdullah ibn Amr al-As. He mentioned that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said, كان يقال أو يقال لصاحب القرآن يوم القيامة اقرأ وارقى في الدرجات ورتل كما كنت ترتل في الدنيا فإن منزلتك عند آخر آية كنت تقرأها. He mentioned another narration again with his chain, likewise to Abdullah ibn Amr. This narration is the same narration with a bit of a different wording. He mentioned that the Prophet ﷺ, he said, Iqra, that it will be said to the person of the Qur'an, Iqra, warqa, warattil, kama kunta turatilu fi dunya, fa inna manzilaka inda akhiri ayatin kunta taqra'uha. The author, he mentioned the narration of the Prophet ﷺ, and the meaning of which is, it will be said to the person of the Qur'an, Sahib al-Qur'an, and the one who recites it and follows it. Now it will be said to him on the day of resurrection, read, Iqra, warqa, wartaqi, and he go and elevate. Recite and rise. Darajat, and rise, ranks. On the day of judgment, recite and rise, elevate up the ranks. And he says, وَرَتِّلْ كَمَا كُنْتَ تُرَتِّلُ فِي الدُّنْيَا, and recite it slowly and beautifully, the same way that you did in the dunya. Verily, the last place that you recite will be the status or the rank that you reach in the Jannah. The rank that you reach in the Jannah. Allahu Akbar. Now, this is the case of who? Sahib al-Quran. يُقَالُ لِصَاحِبِ الْقُرْآن. The one who has concern with reciting the Quran, the words, and pondering over the Quran, and then applying it. This is what is said to him. Recite. Just as you used to recite in the dunya. Verily, your status is in the Jannah, recite and raise and rise. And verily, your rank in the Jannah is at the last verse that you recite. Is at the last verse that you recite. It has been mentioned with regards to this that the ulama has come in Tuhfat al-Ahwadi, this explanation of Sunan al-Tirmidhi, that the ulama, some of the ulama, the Salaf, they would say, Inna man amila bil-Qur'ani فَكَأَنَّهُ يَقْرَأُهُ دَائِمًا. Yani, to clarify the one who is reciting. Again, the relationship between reading and reciting the Qur'an and between applying the Qur'an. This is the understanding of the ulama of the Salaf. Inna man amila bil-Qur'ani فَكَأَنَّهُ يَقْرَأُهُ دَائِمًا وَإِن لَمْ يَقْرَأُهُ. He said, verily, the one who applies the Qur'an is like he's reciting it always, even if he did not recite it. And this is a glad tidings likewise for some of the brothers, maybe they're new, or some of the brothers they're not good in tajweed, or some of the brothers that haven't memorized a lot of the Qur'an. Don't despair, because the mercy of Allah is great. Apply what you know. If you can't recite it good and it's hard on your tongue, just learn the meanings and follow it. Because the one who follows it in application is like the one who is reciting it constantly. Even if he can't recite it. Even if he can't recite it. The Prophet ﷺ mentioned about this likewise. The one who sahib al-khuluq al-hasan, إن العبد لا يبلغ بحسن خلقه درجة القائم الصائم. That verily the person, because of his good manners, and good manners according to the Quran, that he will reach the status and the rank of the one who is fasting and standing in the night prayer. And because he is applying the Qur'an in his manners and his conduct, he will have this high status and this high rank. So this is the understanding of the Salaf. The one who works by the Qur'an is as if he is reciting it constantly, even if he did not recite it. Then on the other hand, he says, وَمَنْ لَمْ يَعْمَلْ بِالْقُرْآنِ فَكَأَنَّهُ لَمْ يَقْرَأْهُ وَإِنْ قَرَأَهُ دَائِمًا. And as for the one who does not apply the Qur'an, then it's as if he is not reciting it, even if he's reciting it constantly. Even if he's reciting it constantly. I mentioned this was in Tuhfa al-Ahwadi by Mubarak Furi. That's incorrect. It's actually in Aun al-Ma'bud, in the explanation of Sunan Abi Dawud. Correction. Statement of some of the ulama with regards to this particular narration. It's in Sunan, the explanation of Sunan Abi Dawud, Aun al-Ma'bud. Now, so he says here, completing the narration, he says, فَمَجَرُّدُ التِّلَاوَةِ, and because this is a commentary on the statement of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that it will be said to the person of the Qur'an to recite and raise and ranks and status, raise and ranks and levels, and recite the way that you used to recite in the dunya. And verily the last verse that you recite will be your status and rank in the paradise. He says about this, فَمُجَرُّدُ التِّلَاوَةِ وَالْحِفْظِ لَا يُعْتَبُرْ اعْتِبَارًا يَتَرَتَّبُ عَلَيْهِ الْمُرَاتِبُ الْعَلِيَّةِ فِي الْجَنَّةِ الْعَالِيَةِ. So simply reciting only and memorization only, this is not considered. This is not going to be the means to bring somebody to the higher ranks in the paradise, in the high ranks of the paradise. Now, so this is the case, and that the one who is reciting the Quran, the virtue of this is that he will be said to him, the person of the Quran, recite and raise, and the last verse that you reach, this will be your rank in the paradise. This is not for the one simply who memorizes and recites it only without following it. This is not considered. This one is not considered. What is considered is the one who recites it and he follows it and he applies it. This is the one that will be said to him, اقرأ وارتقي. This is the one that will be said that have this virtue. As for the one that recites it but does not apply it, whether he contradicts it or he's in opposition to it, then this is the one that the Prophet ﷺ said about him, إِنَّ اللَّهَ يَرْفَعُ بِهَذَا الْكِتَابِ أَقْوَامًا وَيَضَعُ آخَرِينَ. That verily Allah will raise their rank of some people, and those who recite it and follow it, and lower others. So the one who knows it but he doesn't follow it, this is a means to be lowered and to find humiliation in this life and in the hereafter. Question. This particular narration, اقرأ وارتقي, recite and raise in ranks. وَرَتِّلْ كَمَا كُنْتَ تُرَتِّلُ فِي الدُّنْيَا, and recite it in the slow, beautiful manner you used to recite in the dunya. Because verily, the last verse you recite will be your status in the paradise. Is this for the one who memorized it by heart? Or also the one who didn't memorize it by heart, but he recited from the Mus'haf? Question understood? What is intended here? And who gets the virtue? The one who is included or intended by the Prophet ﷺ, that will be said to him on the Day of Judgment, read the same way you used to read in the dunya. Because the people in the dunya, those who read the Quran, there are those who read it from heart, and there are those who read it from the book. And to summarize, before closing, Shaykh Uthaymeen rahimahullah ta'ala, he mentioned that it includes both of them. It includes both of them. The one who recited it from his heart, and likewise the one who recited it from the book. The one who recites. And he has this virtue because he said, because the virtue of Allah is great. And likewise, in accordance with this, Shaykh Al-Fawzan, Hafidhullah Ta'ala, he mentioned the same thing, but he clarified that he said this is for the one who recites it, whether from his heart or whether from the Mus'haf, but he recites it and ponders over and he follows it. This is the one who has that rank, and this is the one who will be said to him, اقرأ وارتقي. نعم. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.